Picture this like a scene from a film you swear you've lived before. You meet a woman who feels like the answer key to every quiet wish you ever scribbled in your head. She walks in and the air changes. Heads turn, conversations drift, the room tilts toward her. She laughs with that quick spark that makes people lean in. She's sharp, grounded, magnetic. And somehow, out of every orbit, she steps into yours. You do what you were taught is right. You show up. You book the table with the city view. You send the good morning text before your coffee is ready, and the good night one before your phone hits the charger. You learn the way she takes her tea and the stories she likes to tell. You buy flowers not to impress, but because it feels respectful. You play the role you were told wins hearts. Kind, consistent, attentive. For a while, it hums. Then little signals begin to flicker. Her replies slip from warm paragraphs to cool one-liners. The phone calls that used to stretch now hit a polite stop. The smile that used to land like sunlight feels courteous. You replay everything. Where did devotion turn to distance? Here's the part that may rattle the script you grew up with. Attraction and security are not the same lever. We've been told to pull the more certainty lever to deepen love. But the engine of desire often runs on a different fuel: mystery, challenge, and perceived value. When affection becomes absolute, predictable, and costless, a certain spark tends to dim. Not because she's cruel or you're too nice, but because certainty changes how the brain allocates attention. This isn't a license to be manipulative or cold. It's a wake-up call about human psychology. Think about it this way. For most of our species' story, choosing a partner wasn't a hobby. It was a survival bet. Instincts tilted toward people who projected strength, steadiness, and a capacity to lead themselves through chaos. Even in a modern world with grocery stores and Wi-Fi, our pattern detectors are still scanning microsignals. How you carry yourself, whether you fold under pressure, how you set boundaries, whether you have a vision outside the relationship. Affection matters, but affection that announces, "My center of gravity is now you," can quietly signal dependence rather than depth. Let's talk about perceived value. Not the Instagram highlight reel, the internal rating system we all use, consciously or not. We read value through energy, your self-respect, your time discipline, your ability to say no without guilt, your willingness to walk away from disrespect. Women don't become obsessed because a spreadsheet says you rank first in income or biceps. They become invested when you carry yourself like a man whose life is already meaningful, who chooses her, not who needs her to feel complete. Two men walk into the same party. One's immaculate, tailored suit, the watch, the swagger. The other shows up relaxed, plain tee, curiosity in his eyes, grounded voice. When the room gets tense, the first man tries to entertain, the second one relaxes, listens, then lands one authentic, witty line that resets the vibe. People naturally drift toward the calm center. Why? Because ease under pressure reads like competence. Because presence beats performance. Because the second man isn't trying to be chosen. He's evaluating, too. That subtle flip, "I choose as well," is the axis around which attraction rotates. Here's the paradox. The more you rush to prove you're safe, the less safe you feel. Answering instantly, rearranging your life repeatedly, always agreeing, over-explaining. These moves fear losing connection, so they cling. Clinging whispers that you don't trust your own gravity. And when you don't trust your own gravity, other people stop orbiting naturally. Uncertainty gets a bad reputation, so let's define it clearly. Uncertainty doesn't mean neglect. It means you're not 100% predictable because you have a life, priorities, and standards. You're consistent in character, not robotic in behavior. You're affectionate, but not available on demand at the cost of your purpose. You can be counted on, but not controlled. That band of healthy unpredictability keeps curiosity alive. Curiosity feeds attention. Attention fuels attraction. Why does the mysterious guy seem to win in the early phases? Not because aloofness is inherently attractive, but because aloofness can be mistaken for abundance. A man who doesn't chase every ping broadcast that his time is full already. His silence isn't a weapon. It's the echo of a life he's actually living. Compare that to a man who treats every notification like an oxygen mask. One communicates internal stability, the other communicates need. This shows up in the micro-tests we all run without naming them. She mentions a male friend. Do you spiral or stay steady? She cancels last minute. Do you punish or simply reschedule on your terms once, then move on with your day? She disagrees. Do you fold to keep peace or hear her and keep your position when it matters? These aren't games. They're data points. Your reactions signal how much you like yourself relative to how much you need her to like you. It's tempting to assume the antidote is grander gestures, bigger trips, pricier dinners, more gifts, more texts. But external upgrades can't compensate for internal leaks. You can't outpurchase the signal of self-abandonment. If your center wobbles every time she frowns, no sweet upgrade fixes the vibe. If you give validation by the bucket before either of you has invested, your compliments devalue themselves. Scarcity doesn't mean stinginess. It means meaning. Earned words weigh more. There's a psychological principle here, intermittent reinforcement. People value what they earn and return to what's not guaranteed. That's why a gym PR hits harder than a participation trophy. Relationships operate similarly, not because we're cruel, but because our brains calibrate value through effort. If your attention is always on tap, it becomes tap water. If your attention flows reliably from genuine connection and respect, and not from fear, it tastes like something. Now let's pull this out of the clouds and into behavior. The goal isn't to withhold affection to create anxiety. The goal is to live a life so well that affection is an intentional gift, not a plea. Keep your friendships. Keep your hobbies. Keep your training. Keep your mission. Don't cancel a standing commitment just because an invite arrives with heart emojis. Offer alternatives. Lead decisively. I made us a 7:30 at that new tie spot. If you're tied up, we'll shoot for Saturday. Notice the tone. Confident, flexible, not overeager. Boundaries read as value. I can't text all day, but I'm excited to see you tonight. Let's pause this if it gets disrespectful. We can pick it up when we're both centered. These aren't threats. They're standards. And standards attract. The person across from you can relax when she knows you won't abandon yourself to avoid discomfort. A man who can't tolerate her displeasure can't protect a shared future from chaos. Calm under friction communicates safety far more than constant agreement does. Here's another twist. When a woman moves from hints to clarity, when I'm cold becomes I miss you, when uncertainty becomes overt investment, that shift often tracks a change in perceived value. Early on, she'll read signals quietly. As her investment grows, she becomes more direct because the cost of losing you rises in her mind. If you've positioned yourself as a man with options, purpose, and kindness, her communication matches that reality. If she grows vague and distant, it's not always malice. It can be her instincts downranking the bet. You don't fix that by flooding her with more of what already turned the lights low. You fix it, if it's fixable, by recalibrating your center and reintroducing the balance that made things spark in the first place. None of this means becoming a caricature. The bad boy, the stonewall, the guy who goes to look powerful. Coldness creates compliance, not devotion. The target is warmer and more demanding. Be loving and hard to sway, generous and sovereign, present and purpose-driven. Love feeds commitment. Challenge feeds desire. Long-term attraction needs both. The fastest path back to your own gravity is simple, not easy. Rebuild your self-respect in the small hours. Keep promises to yourself. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Offer affection like a craftsman, not a vending machine. Lead plans. Invite her into your world. Don't dissolve into hers. Let her feel your warmth. Let her earn your depth. That's not manipulation. That's stewardship of your value. And paradoxically, that's the energy most likely to keep the spark alive. Let's zoom in on the tests you'll inevitably encounter. Not because she's plotting, but because humans verify value through friction. Call them micro additions your frame attends without you realizing. There's the comparison test. She mentions an ex or a colleague who just gets it. The low frame reaction is to perform, sell yourself, compete with a ghost, whip out an invisible resume. The centered reaction is simple, acknowledge and remain unmoved. Sounds like he had his moments. Anyway, how did your pitch go? You're not dismissive. You just refuse to abandon your focus. When you don't fight for ranking, you telegraph you're not ranked. You're chosen, or you're not, and either outcome doesn't shake who you are. Then there's the availability test. She cancels dinner last minute. The needy response scrambles. No worries. Tomorrow? Or later tonight? Or I'll swing by after your thing. Translation: my time is clay. Shape it as you wish. The high-value response respects both of you. All good. I'm tied up the next few nights. Shoot me 2 times that work for you next week, and we'll lock it. No lecture, no sulk, no warfare. Just a standard, cleanly enforced. The intensity test shows up when emotions flare. Maybe she's sharp with you, or criticizes something you care about. Most men escalate or appease. There's a middle way, breathing space. I want to hear you. Let's revisit when we're both calm. That single sentence does 3 things. Honors emotion, sets a boundary, and signals leadership under fire. Calm is competence in relationship form. A key reframe: these tests aren't about her trying to defeat you. They're about her nervous system asking, can I relax with this man? Does he steer when the weather gets choppy? Your steady response lets her answer yes without you giving a TED talk on masculinity. Now, about predictability. Predictable character is attractive. Predictable choreography is not. Think of it like music. A stable rhythm with unexpected fills keeps you listening. You don't need to fabricate drama. You do need to avoid the same date, same text, same script loop that numbs desire. Rotate your cadence. If you usually plan Friday, surprise her with a Tuesday gallery pop-in. If you typically text walls of affection, drop a voice note that's 20 seconds of warm, grounded presence. If you've been doing dinners, switch it up. Sunset hike, pottery class, live jazz, a bookstore date where you pick a random topic and each choose a book to discuss over dessert. Variety isn't a stunt. It's evidence you actually create, not just consume. Intermittent reinforcement isn't about dangling carrots. It's about spacing sweetness so it stays sweet. When everything is special, nothing is. Reserve the long letter for a real milestone. Let compliments be specific and earned. The way you navigated that meeting was razor sharp, lands heavier than "you're amazing" said 14 times a day. When your praise is accurate and occasional, it becomes a currency with weight. Let's talk leadership. Real leadership, not top-down control. Control tries to bulldoze her needs. Leadership integrates hers with your vision. It sounds like, I've got 2 options in mind: Italian with a view at 7:30 or street food and a rooftop film at 8. Which vibe are you in the mood for? You're steering, but you're attuned. She gets to relax into your decisiveness without disappearing. That's the relief many women quietly crave. Not to be managed, but to be confidently invited. If you've been the guy who overgives and underleads, how do you pivot without feeling counterfeit? You don't swing to cold. You recalibrate quietly. Stop narrating intentions, start living them. Keep the workout you cancel. Take the creative class you shelved. Block 2 evenings a week for your craft or your business build. Non-negotiable. When your life regains texture, your energy changes first. Behavior follows naturally. You text slower because you're doing something. You plan better because your time matters. You compliment cleaner because you're seeing her as a person, not a regulator of your self-worth. Here's a practical cadence to try. Call it the 3:2:1 rhythm for early dating. 3 meaningful touches per week, not spam. A plan, a check-in with substance, and a shared experience. 2 purpose blocks you never trade. Gym plus craft, coaching plus language, whatever grows you. 1 spontaneous flourish. A small surprise that shows thought, not expense. Her favorite snack left after a long day. A playlist titled with an inside joke. A Polaroid from your hike that made you think of her. This rhythm balances certainty. He shows up. With oxygen, he has a life. It avoids both extremes. the suffocation of constant access, and the confusion of ghostly minimalism. Let's address abundance. Abundance is not a roster, it's a posture. It says, I could be alone and still full. That fullness changes how you relate. You're more honest because loss doesn't mean collapse. You're more selective because tolerance isn't your love language. You're warmer because you're not bargaining for approval. Women feel this in subtle ways. You don't flinch when she's busy. You don't dramatize distance. You don't rush the DTR conversation out of anxiety. Ironically, that very steadiness often accelerates clarity because she can trust your words aren't coming from fear. Frame is the container that holds all of this. Your frame is your interpretation of reality. In a strong frame, you hold your values with an open hand. You're persuadable, not pliable. You can revise your view when presented with better data, but not to avoid discomfort. You can apologize without self-erasure. You can say no with kindness. A weak frame seeks harmony at any cost, then resents the bill. A strong frame seeks truth with care, then pays the price gladly. Here's a simple diagnostic. When conflict arises, do you fix feelings to avoid facts? You're right. I'll just do whatever. That's appeasement. Fix facts to avoid feelings. Here's the logic. Stop being emotional. That's dismissal. Hold both. I hear you're hurt. Here's what I'm seeing. Let's find a path that respects both of us. That's leadership. Practice number 3 until it's muscle memory. You'll notice arguments shrink and respect rise. The goal isn't to win. It's to protect the connection and your standards simultaneously. What about the nice guy dilemma? How do you stay kind without becoming forgettable? Replace people-pleasing with generosity. People-pleasing trades self for access. Generosity gives without self-loss. The difference is boundary. You can bring her soup when she's sick and still keep your work call. You can listen deeply and still disagree. You can gift beautifully and still refuse disrespect. Kindness with a spine is unforgettable. Predictability also sneaks in through language. Scripts like, what do you want to do? Put the burden on her repeatedly. Instead, offer a frame. I'm feeling ramen and a late movie, unless you've got a craving. Or, I've got 2 hours free and I want to spend them with you. Walk and talk or coffee and people watching. You're not controlling, you're curating. Curators are attractive because they reveal taste. Now, an uncomfortable truth. If you've trained a dynamic of over-investing and undervaluing, your shift may trigger protest. Expect you've changed, or why are you being distant? Meet it with honesty. I realized I was overextending and losing myself. I'm correcting that. I care about you, and I care about staying me. If she can't meet you at that level, the relationship was already dependent on your self-abandonment. Let that sting teach, not harden you. A word on compliments and chemistry. Early on, praise her effort and essence, not just appearance. I love how curious you are. You ask real questions, outlast you're gorgeous. Beauty compliments are fine. Make them specific and occasional. Anchor attraction in traits that deepen with time. That's how desire survives familiarity. Bring play back. Tease lightly, not cuttingly. Set mini challenges. Loser of darts buys dessert. Build rituals only you two share. A 3-song dance break when you cook. A post-date debrief question you always ask. What moment made you smile the most? Rituals create micro-meaning. Meaning is the soil where passion roots when novelty fades. Let's layer in self-work, because none of this sticks if your inner world is chaos. 3 anchors. Body. Train hard enough that you respect your reflection for the effort, not the mirror's verdict. The way you move through space speaks before you do. Mission. Carve a niche for excellence. It doesn't need applause. It needs obsession. A man animated by purpose is magnetic because purpose orders his yes and no. Brotherhood. Cultivate male friendships where truth is told and standards are enforced. Iron sharpens iron. Lone wolves impress Instagram. Packs build kingdoms. Finally, timeline expectations. Attraction surges fast, then asks to be proven slowly. Don't sprint to the end zone. Date with pace. Let seasons do their work. Spring spark, summer's expansion, fall's sorting, winter's depth. Pushing for total certainty in week 3 kills the very mystery that makes certainty worth having later. So here's the operative mantra: generous heart, guarded time, grounded pace. Lead plans, keep promises, welcome challenge, protect your frame. If she leans in, match. If she leans out, maintain your rhythm. Either way, you remain you. And paradoxically, that's what gives her permission to become more fully her. That's where real chemistry lives, not in performance, but in two sovereign people choosing each other day after day because the dance is alive. Let's take this to the deepest layer, the long-term game. It's one thing to spark attraction in the first 3 months, but another to keep the fire alive in year 3, year 10, or beyond. The truth is, many men start strong and then collapse into comfort. They forget that attraction isn't a one-time achievement. It's a dynamic state that must be nurtured alongside love. Think about the arc of most relationships. The early days are fireworks, spontaneous, unpredictable, full of what's next. She doesn't know exactly where she stands, so she invests, she chases, she flirts. But as time passes, routines harden. The good morning texts become obligatory. The dates become templated. The mystery evaporates. Suddenly, you're roommates with history instead of lovers with tension. The mistake? Confusing love with attraction. Love grows in stability, but attraction shrinks when stability turns into monotony. That's why men who do everything right often end up blindsided. They gave love, loyalty, consistency, and lost passion without knowing why. The missing ingredient wasn't more gifts or grander gestures. It was polarity, that alive energy created by challenge, novelty, and the sense of being with someone whose value keeps unfolding. So how do you maintain polarity without turning into a game-playing caricature? You evolve. You don't just hold your frame, you expand it. You keep adding new chapters to who you are. You refuse to let your story go stale. Growth is the most attractive form of unpredictability. A man who keeps learning, trying, leading, failing, and building forces the relationship to adapt with him. She never feels she's figured you out because you're always in motion. This doesn't mean abandoning her or living separate lives. It means leading the relationship forward. You invite her into new experiences, new projects, new versions of you. 1 month you're training for a half marathon. The next you're experimenting with photography. The next you're building a side hustle. Your energy evolves, and she feels the current pulling her forward. That current is intoxicating. Let's revisit the concept of investment. In every relationship, balance matters. If you're always investing more time, energy, emotion, attraction tilts out of alignment. Humans value what we work for. If you hand over attention unearned, it loses weight. But if you set standards and boundaries that invite her to invest through effort, care, thought, she values the connection more deeply. Here's a simple practice. Let her contribute. Too many men think being the gentleman means carrying 100% of the load. They never let her plan a date, bring you soup when you're sick, surprise you with a gesture. But when she invests, she bonds. When she works to keep your attention, she craves it more. A balanced relationship isn't 100 to 0. It's 50-50 expressed in different currencies. Now about tests. Women don't consciously design these. They flow from instinct. A teasing remark about another guy, a sharp tone during stress, a sudden withdrawal of affection. Most men misinterpret these as rejection. But in reality, she's subconsciously checking. Are you who I thought you were? Do you crumble when pushed? Can I trust your strength? Passing the test isn't about dominance. It's about composure. A man who doesn't overreact, doesn't beg, doesn't fold, that man communicates unshakable value. This is why frame is everything. Your frame is your inner compass, your lens on reality. A man with weak frame abandons his own map the moment she frowns. A man with strong frame welcomes her feelings, but doesn't abandon himself. He can say, I hear you, but here's where I stand. And that steadiness, calm, respectful, resolute, is the most magnetic trait you can offer. It tells her, With me, you're safe. Not because I worship you, but because I'm solid within myself. Another layer. The interplay between scarcity and abundance. We often misunderstand scarcity. Scarcity doesn't mean withholding affection to cause insecurity. It means recognizing that your attention is valuable because it's finite. You don't text all day because your time is filled with purpose. You don't cancel commitments because your mission matters. She learns that your attention isn't automatic, it's earned. And when it arrives, it feels precious. Abundance, on the other hand, is the opposite of neediness. It's not about juggling multiple women. It's about living in a way that you don't need any single person to complete you. Your life has richness, friends, passions, goals, purpose. This abundance frees you from desperation, and that freedom is irresistible. She senses it. She knows you love her, but she also knows you'd be fine without her. And ironically, that's what makes her want you more. Let's ground this in behavior. When she challenges you, stay calm. Don't overdefend, don't attack. Smile, breathe. Let your steadiness speak louder than words. When she withdraws, don't chase instantly. Match energy. Stay warm, but focused on your life. She'll feel the gap and often re-engage. When she tests boundaries, hold them kindly. I care about you, but I won't be spoken to like that. Let's try again. Respect plus firmness equals strength. When things feel dull, inject novelty. Let her into experiences neither of you has tried. Surprise isn't about extravagance. It's about freshness. Above all, remember this. Women don't fall in love with how you treat them on paper. They fall in love with how they feel about themselves in your presence. Do they feel challenged? Do they feel inspired? Do they feel like they're growing? Do they feel like they must work a little to keep you? If the answer is yes, attraction stays alive. If the answer is no, comfort replaces passion. It's not manipulation. It's biology meeting psychology. People crave what feels valuable. Value isn't proved by devotion alone. It's proved by self-respect, by boundaries, by the courage to be chosen rather than desperate to be kept. So what does mastery look like? A man who balances both sides of the equation. He's kind, but not a pushover. He's affectionate, but not predictable. He's stable, but not stagnant. He leads, but he listens. He challenges, but he cherishes. He's loving without losing himself. That man doesn't just win a woman's heart. He keeps it. He doesn't just create a spark. He sustains a flame. Because she never quite feels she's done. She always feels there's more of him to discover, more value to earn, more depth to reach. And that feeling, the sense of striving upward towards someone she admires, is the fuel of lifelong desire. So here's the choice. You can play the role you were told. Overgive, overprove, overcommit, and watch attraction fade despite your best intentions. Or you can embrace the deeper truth. That love and attraction run on different rules. Love grows in certainty. Attraction thrives in mystery. Balancing both is the art. Become the man who respects himself first, who lives abundantly, who leads with calm confidence. A man whose frame is unshakable, whose affection is sincere, whose presence is unpredictable in the best way. Do that, and you won't have to chase. She'll chase you. She'll invest. She'll desire. She'll stay. Not because you manipulated her, but because you embodied the kind of man biology has been programming her to crave all along. And that is the secret most men never learn. The prize isn't the woman. The prize is becoming the man she cannot stop choosing.